Welcome, Peekers. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling,
Tea spilling,
and to keep up with all the latest book talk gossip that you have been missing out on.
We're here, guys. Let us just tell you the tea, okay? We've been trying for 5 hours to get this show up and running. So we are crossing our fingers that we can make it through this and bring you guys an excellent show. And if it's not excellent, just give us a second, okay? We're really trying hard.
We're really trying hard. We were initially sitting in the same room. We had this whole setup back here for 2 people. Then we were in separate rooms, still about to freak out. Technical difficulties. We are not IT girlies, so we're struggling. But we're here. We've made it. We're hopefully going to give you a good show that you enjoy now with video. Hey.
Yeah. And Kenzie, I've got a question for you. Since it did take us so long to get going, should we just jump into the story for this one and then save our life updates for the next episode?
I think that sounds good. We'll give you a little recap of the story from last week. We'll give you some life episodes on the next one when we're maybe a little more...
Less stress?
Yeah, less stress. Maybe we got a little drink in us, you know, something,
something
a little
lighten the
alcohol,
mood.
something to calm down.
Okay, so then let's just go ahead and get into it because Lord knows we need to get this show going. Where we left off last time, we covered Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass, chapters 1 through 10. This episode, we are going to be covering Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass, chapters 11 through 24. We are going to be storytelling everything that happens in these. So if you have not read that part and you do not want spoilers, this is your warning. We are telling the story.
You're in the wrong place if you don't want those spoilers.
Yes, this is intended for everybody just to sit back, relax, enjoy the story, enjoy the tea, and just have a little kiki with us, okay?
Okay.
All right, where did we leave off last week? Last week, we found Selena getting picked up from Endeavor by Dorian. Dorian came to pick her up as his... Oh, right. Thank you, lady.
Right.
So Dorian picked her up from that place.
Yeah.
And... he's like, I need you to be my personal champion because my dad's got this really cool competition going on. You won't have to come back here if you win the championship and you serve for 4 years.
Yeah, they had said in the last one that basically, like, if you're sent to Endovier, no longer than a month are people expected to live. So the fact that she's made it a year is impressive.
Crazy.
And also horrifying that she's made it that long.
We definitely do get into that, like what her experience was too. So it's like, it's mind-boggling hearing what she had to go through and what she had to witness in general. They don't want anybody to know she is Selena Sardothian because otherwise they think that the other competitors are going to have like a target on her back. They're going to want to get her out of the competition if they know she's the most notorious assassin going against all of them. So they're like, you're going to go under an alias. Your name is Lillian. You're a jewel thief and your family is like distant. Nobody really knows about your family. And no one outside of the king's inner court knows who she is either. So only the inner court know that Selena Sardothian is a competitor. Everybody outside, like the queen's court, visitors, they all think she is Lillian. So when we're picking back up, it's starting to get closer and closer to competition time. And each champion has their own coach, I guess you would say. So Kale is Selena's coach. And that's a really good coach to have because he's the captain of the Royal Guard.
He's like her coach, like handler, babysitter. He's her lineman, you know. He's keeping her in line.
So Kale brings Selena out to go practice sparring just to see where she's at because, you know, she's kind of weak still. She's out of shape. So he's just trying to test and see where she's at. And actually, they do pretty good. Selena even thinks to herself, he's actually a pretty decent fighter. Like, we're sparring together and he's doing pretty good, which is a compliment, I think, coming from Selena. She does not hand that out lightly. Like, she usually is like, I could probably kill them in my sleep. But she's like, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the highest compliment coming from Selena. She's normally very like, I could take you in my sleep. But for her to say, he's actually kind of a competitor, that means he's doing something right.
I love that. And then, so she is also annoyed because whenever she sees the other competitors, I'm pretty sure we talked about Kane in the last episode, but Kane is basically the top dog at this show or this competition, and everybody's watching him, and he's like the big bully that everybody's like, oh, wow, he's going to win this. And Selena's like, I actually could win this if you guys let me just show off. Like, why do I have to hold myself back? Why do I have to stay in the middle of the pack? Why do I have to do all this and that? She's like, I'm Selena Sardothian. Don't be rude. Mikhail's like, you've literally got to chill out. Let everybody underestimate you. And then whenever you're at the end of the competition, it's going to be you that's winning. So just keep that in mind. And I was like, that's so nice.
Yeah, no, I feel like he has very good advice. He didn't make it to the captain of the guard just because he's a buddy with Dorian. I feel like even though he's young, like, seems like he's really earned it. Like, he's like one of those guys that's like black and white. This is right. I'm a fighter. Like, I know. Like, I think he deserves his position to an extent too.
Yeah. I love him too. I know it's too early to be saying that, but I know I know him, okay? Personally,
yeah.
I know him.
Yeah.
And I like him. And I think that what you said is true. It's like he's very black and white. He's trying so hard to be serious, but he's a good guy, so he can't help but to be nice and grow to learn a person. And that's kind of what happens. He spends a lot of time with her in and out of training practices. She and Kale are often either eating together, walking around the gardens, going around the castle. And one day after their training in the morning, they're walking around the castle. It's a rainy day, and they round a corner and they run into Lady Kaltane. But Lady Kaltane is also with another visitor. And this is where we meet the most beautiful bad bitch ever. Her name is Princess Nehemiah.
I say Nehemiah, but I'm sure either is fine. I'm sure close enough.
I do say Nehemiah, but
Like,
Nehemiah is probably correct.
You do like to put your own little take on words and names. That's just who you are as a person. But no, Nehemiah is a goddess.
Yeah, she is actually a goddess. But you guys also have to remember I am just now gaining literacy, so I am barely able to read.
I would give you at least third grade level.
Yeah, so that's why you guys can't get mad at me if I mispronounce things.
You're just a girl.
So Selena and Nehemiah meet, and Nehemiah. Now I'm going to be like worried about it. Nehemiah walks in and she's not entertained, not happy to be here. She's kind of giving everybody the side eye, and everybody greets her. Selena greets her and the Elway. Is that how Elway?
I say Elway.
I'm going to say Elway.
Mine, Elway, but I'm pretty confident that I also say it wrong. I'm sure somebody will tell us.
Okay, well, it can't be any worse than me. So she greets Nehemiah and Elway, and Nehemiah is like, that's interesting. Nobody really knows that language because she's from a different country where Aderlin is trying to conquer, and she's here under the ruse that she is trying to gain culture as they're taking over. So she's learning their language, learning like what their traditions are, and she's saying that she's learning all this so she can bring it back to her family and her people and make them more okay with accepting the land of Aderlin, essentially. So Selena and Nehemiah, they begin talking and they're kikiing because nobody else speaks the language. So Lady Kaltane is like giving her the dirty looks, like, I'm so sorry, what are you saying?
And Kale's like giving her like a shocked look. He's like, what are you doing right now? And she's like, I'm just befriending the princess. Don't worry about me. And they're like cracking jokes with each other too, like little inside jokes.
Low-key talking shit. They're talking shit about Lady Kaltane, about how she's so annoying and insufferable, how the glass castle is the stupidest kind of build that you could even think of. Just like all the tea, and it's like super casual that nobody knows like what they're talking about, which I think is funny. They're like talking shit right in front of everybody. So they're basically friends right off the bat because Nehemiah is like, first of all, you know my language, but you also know the language and like common tongue, like the way commoners would talk. So did you have a slave? And Selena's like, no, absolutely not. I just grew up with somebody and they kind of taught me some of their words and that's how I learned it. And she's like,
and little does anyone know that she learned it being a slave herself, basically.
Yeah.
Tea.
That is tea. So while Selena is getting to know Nehemiah, they also had to like kind of shoot Lady Kaltane. So Kale kind of took Nehemiah under his wing and he's like, don't worry, I got you. We'll make sure that she's not the one babysitting you anymore, but you are going to still have somebody following you.
Actually, so remember Nehemiah in the LA language, she was like, tell her I don't have any need for her to escort me anymore. And then Selena was like, oh, so sorry, Kaltane. She actually doesn't need your services anymore. She's fine. You can go on. And she's like,
yeah, it was quite interesting. But anyways, on the other side of the castle, we have Dorian. Dorian is still doing his duties as the prince, which is basically attending a bunch of court sessions. So courts for his dad, the king, and courts for his mom, the queen. And he's actually hanging out with his mom during her court outing. And she's trying to pressure him. She's like talking to him about how she needs him to hurry up and find a woman to marry and make an heir. Otherwise, if he ever dies, the risk is letting little baby Holland become the king.
And we all know literally only like 19.
19.
He's not like super old or anything. Dorian's like, he's like, I like my ladies. Having a good time. I'm not trying to be the king anytime soon. I'm not trying to get married anytime soon.
And she was like, well, you're going to need to find somebody of standing. Like maybe even Nehemiah will accept your hand in marriage. He's like, whoa. And she says that in like a backhanded way. Like she's like, maybe even Nehemiah. Like she has her prejudice. A lot of people have their prejudice about people from Elway. And he's like, honestly, I wouldn't hate that, but she is a firecracker. And also, I don't think she likes me like that. I'm pretty sure she's here under a different reason than what she's saying, because everybody knows Nehemiah is actually a helper for the rebels. Like she's been supporting the rebels fight back against Aderlin's conquering. So he's like, I don't know why she's here.
It's very quiet too. Like if you're openly supporting, you're dead. Like that's it. She is very much like, I'm not ever like, she's like very much saying she does not support what's going on, but she would never like openly say she's supporting the rebels. But everyone knows she's got behind the scenes things, but it's never proved. It's never anything. So whatever she's doing, if she's doing anything, it's very quiet. It's very hush. And it's very well done because nobody can pin anything on her.
The only reason why Selena knows about her is because the slaves in Dovier would talk about her and how beautiful she is and how strong and brave she is and like all the work she's been doing to help protect them and stuff. So that's how Selena knows of Nehemiah. Okay, so in that instance, too, Dorian is like, I can't talk about this anymore. I'm leaving. I got to skedaddle, get out of here. And he's walking around the castle and he sees Selena like sparring with Nehemiah's guards. And he's like, what is she doing out here? What is she doing out here fighting these guards? And also Nehemiah's out here and they're all by themselves. What's going on? He goes in. He's like, can I talk to you for a second? And Selena's like, sure. What's going on? He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm fighting. I'm practicing. I have a test tomorrow, so I've got to train. And she wanted to watch. And the instructor said that I was allowed to be out here. And he's like, well, where's Kale? She's like, I don't know. But don't you think I'm going to just kill her like right here, like with her guards? Do you see them? Like I'm not going to just kill her. That would be so crazy. He was going to get ready to tell Nehemiah she needs to leave. But Nehemiah is like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like we have a language barrier. I don't know what's happening. So Selena is so nice. And she tries to translate for Dorian. She's like, he wants to help you practice. So she wraps Dorian up with Nehemiah, and he ends up getting wrapped into having to teach her how to spar and stuff. And then Kale comes in, and Kale is like, you know how Dorian was just like, whoa, what's going on? Kale is like, what is going on?
Kale's like the angry mother that comes in and sees her children all like running with knives and scissors. He's like, oh my God, the crown prince and the princess from another realm and the assassin all in this training room.
He said, this is not good.
Oh, no. Stupid.
He's like, why would you guys do this? Get out of here. So he makes them all go. He's like, you guys need to cut it out and get out of here. Go to your separate rooms. We're done. So he's a little party pooper in this instance.
Boo.
Boo. We don't like a party pooper. Moving on. Next day, it's the test. And there's a little bit of stir / like awkward silence going on because something happened in the night. And nobody really knows what's going on. So all Selena knows is that Kale did not show up for her morning workout like they usually do. He is usually there first thing in the morning. They run, they exercise, they train. Then they would be getting into their test. Today, there was none of that. She just shows up with the other competitors where the test is supposed to be happening. And she notices that the other competitors look kind of pale and scared and shook. And she's trying to like figure out what's going on. This other assassin or thief, his name is Knox. He comes up and he's like, yeah, I hear like there's something that happened. My coach didn't show up and I haven't seen anybody else talking about their coaches. Like we don't know what's going on. And there's one competitor missing. And then this little baby assassin, Paler, he's like, did you guys hear what happened?
Peller.
And they're like, no, what happened? They're like, here's the tea. Apparently, one of the competitors got killed last night. And they're like, what?
Trigger warning.
And he's like, yeah, and not just like killed, he was ripped open and his innards were scooped out and he is ripped to shreds. Like he's dead. And they just found him in the servants' like hallway, which first of all, that's so crazy how that just happened in the castle and the body is just lying around and nobody knows, like there's no news about that. It's not like transparent across everybody, but it does explain why Kale and a lot of the other coaches aren't there. It's because they need to figure out what's going on, if the throne or if the crown is under attack or something. So Kale has been off trying to investigate what's going on there, and everybody else is just kind of like spooked and trying to keep it together. I'm going to be pretty honest with you guys. A lot of this part in the book, it's very repetitive. They have tests, a competitor gets killed, they don't know who's killing everybody, and they have another test. You know, it's kind of like that cycle. So I'm going to kind of graze over all of that. If you guys want to look more into it, you're going to have to read this section of the book. But
I'll tell you like about the big scenes, though.
The big
scenes
highlights.
where there's like things that are happening, scenes where like there's a really big competition. But even in the book, there are some of the competitions, like I think, what was it, like 20 competitors, 25 competitors?
Yeah, it was like 25
a lot
competitors
of competitors. And there are several like competitions where it's like, okay, they had a knife fight today or something, and then they found
like
another
archery
competitor.
and stuff.
Yeah, so like it talked about it in the book, but we're going to tell you about the big things. If you want the full story, like as we always say, head to the book, but we're going to give you the highlights, the most exciting, dramatic, cinematic parts of the book, because that's who we are as people, period.
So after a couple competitors die and nobody really knows what's going on, one competitor decides to make a stand and almost sends a message to everybody. They're lined up before one of their competitions, and he knocks out a guard and tries to make a run for it. And he runs and he gets shot immediately, straight through the neck by an arrow. And that was pretty jarring because most of the competitors got sent here under the ruse that if they lost, they're just going to return back where they came from or go to jail or something like that. There was no talk about getting killed. So that's sending a message that they're quite literally pawns. They're quite literally just objects. And the king does not care about them. And they don't have to.
Also, most of them, I mean, some of them are criminals. Some of them were in prison, but very few were at the level that like Selena was at, where they were plucked out of like literally a death camp. Most of them were somewhat free citizens, maybe with records, and were under the impression that they were doing this willingly, that they were doing this with the option to continue or not. So for somebody to be trying to escape and then be taken out is really scary.
Crazy. Yeah, and I think for Selena and her POV, that was very obvious for her. She was like, well, this is just more affirmation that I need to just play my cards right. Like, I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not trying to be nice to anybody. I'm quite literally just trying to win this so I don't have to go back to that camp. So she is like thinking about this even while looking at Dorian, because Dorian has been trying to make little flirting moments with her, trying to like meet her in her room, trying to talk to her about her past and her history and stuff like that. They have a very familiar, intimate bond. Like, it's unspoken, but they feel like they know each other's the vibe that I'm getting. So they talk pretty often. They're sharing book recommendations. They're meeting each other in their rooms. They're doing things behind Kale's back. Not doing things, but, you know, like they're meeting up behind Kale's back, essentially.
Doing things behind Kale's back. Watch
and
out.
so Selena, honestly, at this point, obviously has a crush on Dorian. She made that very apparent. Like, she gets flushed, she gets nervous. She's like, why is he looking at me like that? Why is he touching me like that? So she's like, I got to make sure not to let that get into my head. I got to play my cards right. But also, I feel like she's like, I got to play also with my strengths. If he's into me, then maybe we should lean into that. Who's to say? I don't know.
Who's to say? Who could know?
But one of the competitions that we do want to talk about, well, that I want to talk about, my favorite competition episode or part was this one where they're like climbing the castle, and they all get to have like a rope and then one other thing to help them get up there. And Selena has like tar to help her stick. Everybody's using like the easy route up to it's like a 30-foot tower that they have to climb up, or 50-foot tower that they have to climb up. And Selena is doing like the one far off to the side out of everybody's way. It's a slow and steady kind of pace for her rather than just like getting in line behind Kane and all of his other minions. So she's climbing up, she's climbing up, she's climbing up. And then all of a sudden she hears like screams, and then she hears a thud. She looks down and one of the competitors had fallen and splat on the ground, dead.
Death. Yeah.
And that's so crazy because I feel like if I were to just look down at any point, I would be done. I'd be like, I can't go on anymore. That's it.
Yeah, height is not a strong suit of mine. If I am climbing something, if I look down immediately, I'm like, oh, no, I get very nauseous. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me.
No, love. Not for me either. I don't even like it when I'm rock climbing. Like, I have to triple check the rope. I don't trust anything.
And that's in a very safe and controlled environment, too.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't imagine not having a belay person like help. Yeah, I would be very, very scared. So anyways, when she's looking down at this dead champion on the ground, she sees like the holdup that is happening as well. So Kane is soaring up there, and then there's a train of people basically underneath him. And there is like a group of 3 or 4 people who are stuck on this one ledge because Grave, which is one of the competitors, he couldn't like lasso his rope around a gargoyle to swing. So one person goes around Grave and they get up there. Nox is behind that person and tries to go around Grave, but then Grave is like, you better back off, hang out on your own ledge, and you better wait for me. And Grave pushes Nox off. He pushes Nox off, and luckily Nox has his rope tied onto something, so he's like dangling underneath that ledge. And Selena sees Grave sneak down to his ankle, pretending like he's fixing his boot, but really he's pulling out a dagger. And he's starting to cut Nox's rope. And so you guys know the tower that they're climbing is like 50 feet tall, and they're halfway up. Nox is dangling, and Grave is cutting his rope. And Selena's stuck here. She's like, okay, on one hand, that's one less competitor. On the other hand, Nox is like the closest thing to an ally and a friend that I have here right now. And that's kind of fucked up that I'm seeing all of this happen, and I'm not going to do anything. So what am I going to do? And it's getting down to the wire. Like, Grave is slicing that rope. It's like, one rope strand done. 2 rope strands done. So Selena's like, fuck it. And she gets down, and she goes down to this other competitor who's, like, close to her, but, like, not right beside her. And she takes his rope, and she's like, if you cut or do anything to this rope, I will gut you. And so she takes the guy's rope, and she ties it around herself. And just as Grave cuts the last strand of Nox's rope, he starts falling. Selena jumps off, and she like swoops down to catch him, and she grabs him at the last minute, and they slam into the wall of the castle. And I can't even imagine the amount of pain that must have been. Having a rope tied around you and then having a hard stop around your waist while holding somebody else that's falling.
How much weight
I would have probably dropped
on your
them.
midsection? No, seriously.
Yeah.
Think about it's probably like a it's probably like a woven like rope.
Yeah, like a classic rope.
Skin. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Around your midsection. God. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and like with all of the tar that was on her hand too when she was climbing up, like to get her hand off that quickly, she ripped off like a good chunk of her skin. Like so her fingers, her hands are kind of like raw with skin pulled up and the rope burn and holding Grave. She gets the wind knocked out of her, and Grave is Nox is like, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like he is very grateful, very thankful that he didn't splat on the ground like the other guy. And I thought that was both really cool moment, just seeing her jump into action and jump down like that, but also so scary because she could have died. He could have died. And I don't know how she didn't break her back, honestly. Like, I feel like a rope around the waist, that would have just snapped. She's got to have terrible bruises.
Even if she's only 100 pounds, Nox is going to be at least 100 pounds, probably a lot more. Like, that's 200 to 300 pounds of weight across your midsection. Like, Also, I don't know if we talked about it. I can't remember if we talked about it a lot in this episode or in the previous episode, but Selena talked about Knox. Like, she had conversations with him, and he's been one of the only people that's treated her like, one, like an equal competitor, and two, not some dirt underneath his shoe. Like, everyone else has been either laughing at her, scoffing at her. And Kale had said, you know, keep your head even. Don't be like number one in the games. We want you to remain very kind of innocuous, very like, we want you to sneak up on these players in skill at the very end after they don't see you as a competitor. And Knox the entire time has been like starting conversations with her, showing her respect, showing her friendship. And so I think like
that paid off for him.
Had that decision to make to be like, well, this is a competitor I could get rid of, but also this is one of the only people that has treated me with respect and kindness. Yeah, so it was cool to see from like her ruthlessness in Assassin's Blade, kind of, other than with Sam, translate into another person too.
She ends up finishing, and the only reason why Knox doesn't go home is because of the dead competitor that fell to his death. So Knox makes it through this round. So does Selena, barely. Like, they're the last two competitors that finish. Another day's going around. She's walking with Kale around the castle, around the garden, and Nehemiah's with her because they're hanging out now. They're like besties. And Nehemiah's really trying hard to get Selena to give her private lessons in the language. So she's trying hard to convince Kale during this walk. She's like, please, 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 let us do this. Kale's like, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. I can't tell you why, but that's not going to happen. And they're like, whatever, fine. We'll just go on, I guess. But as they're walking through the garden, Selena points out to Nehemiah the symbols that they noticed on her first day there. She's like, do you know what these are? Like, nobody seems to understand what these symbols are on the ground and, like, why these gargoyles are pointing at them. Like, what the heck does this all mean? And Nehemiah's like, do not ever look into these word marks. And she's like, oh, okay, word marks, crazy. But she's like, you don't look into that. Don't even think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't get anywhere near these things. Like, they're nothing but danger. And she's like starting to get really animated and freaking out. She's looking at Selena like she's looking at her with three eyes. Like, she's got three eyes on her face. She's like, what is going on? Who are you? Like, it's getting weird and animated. Yeah. And Selena's like, okay, I'll give you private lessons. She says it in LA. So she's like, I'll give you private lessons. We can hang out together, like, before, after. Just chill.
Yeah.
And so that's how they kind of move on from that. But that's tea because Nehemiah knows what that is. Nobody else knows what that is?
Everybody else seems very, like, vague and very, like, I don't know, quit asking questions. Like, very, and it also seems like a lot of people don't know what it is, but equally the people that seem to have some inkling of it are like, quit asking questions.
Yeah. So I feel like there's more. They both know already, like Nehemiah and Selena have both told each other why they're here, but they both subconsciously know that that's not the whole truth. So this makes me feel like Nehemiah is going to be playing a big part into whatever these symbols are.
I feel like Nehemiah, from the very beginning, like, she seems so, like, she seems hard, but she also seems very warm and very knowledgeable. But she always seems like she's got cards close to her chest. Like, she's just got it. You don't really know, and it doesn't really talk about it hardly any throughout the book. And it, even as it does talk about it through the book, we might potentially learn even more about her in the next several books too. So she is one that keeps her cards close to her chest, and you can see it while you're reading the book, but there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
I love her. I love her energy. I love her attitude. Like, I could go on and on about how much I love Nehemiah. And again, you guys have to read the book if you want to know more, like, of the details and the small, like, conversations that come out of her. But she is definitely strong. She's definitely bold. She is going to say what she wants to say no matter what. Like, even if she is in the Adderlin and, like, the glass castle, she knows who she is and she knows what she believes in and she knows her standards. She's not being disrespectful to anything. She's just saying no or yes, straightforward and no explanation. Like, she's like, that's just how it is.
She's a very powerful woman. She knows what she wants, and she will do what she has to do.
She's a good princess. She's a good princess. She's going to make a really good heir. Okay, so a holiday is coming up around this time as well. So it's called the Samhain, and legend has it this is the time where the gods get as close to the earth as they can. And so Selena is like, oh, that sounds fun. Is there going to be a feast? And Kale's like, yeah, but you can't come. Of course.
Not invited.
Of course you can't come. You can't come. You're
You
not
don't
allowed
even
to come.
go here, okay? You don't even go here.
So he's like, you're going to have to just hang back. So sorry. I'll bring you a plate of food, though, afterwards, and we can talk about whatever you want. So she's lying in her bed that night, just staring at the ceiling, as one does when they're not invited to a party. But that's when she notices there's like a weird breeze coming in behind this tapestry in her room. And she's like, that's interesting because it's a solid wall. How's there a breeze coming in? So Selena, being the girl she is, she's going to investigate what it is. She moves some things around and she pulls open the tapestry and she's like, oh, excellent, a hidden door. Let's see what's in there.
I'd be like, hell
She
yeah, I'm
opens
going
it up.
down there. I'm exploring everything.
Would you be like
Oh,
that?
I would. I would probably want to take someone.
No
No,
way.
I would. For sure.
Wait,
I
pause.
would.
Did you ever go to the abandoned medical building at Western? Do you know what I'm talking about? The old nursing school building at Western was abandoned, and me and my friends broke into it one night, and it was the scariest thing I have ever put myself through. There was like hospital beds everywhere. There was papers thrown around. There was two-way mirrors.
Oh,
I was
fuck
scared.
yeah. I'd be going there. I didn't know about that.
No.
I would have gone there for sure.
No, that's so
I would've
scary. I
gone.
was
I'd have
very
been
terrified.
Scared, but I would have gone. You know, I love haunted houses.
You do.
I love
that's
everything
true.
Halloween. On Halloween, I want to go to every haunted house, every scare fest. I love that stuff.
I think it sounds fun in theory, but I don't like being scared. It's funny being scared.
No, I want
but
to be
it's
scared. If
also
I
not
don't get
funny.
scared, I'm like, pussies. None of you are good at this. Terrible. Up your acting game. You don't have any acting skills whatsoever. Me and Maddie actually went to a haunted house last Halloween. I think you paid like an extra $5 or something. I think it was in Salt Lake City, and they could touch you during you had to wear a glow necklace, and if you were wearing the glow necklace, then they could touch you during the thing. So they could come up behind you and like grab your arm or like grab your shoulder
Oh my
or
gosh.
something during the scare. And of course we paid for the extra. Of course we did.
You're a psychopath.
I want to be
You're
scared.
a
If I'm not
psycho.
scared, what am I paying for?
That's true.
I want to be scared. I want to be really scared. I like the thrill. Maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie.
You might be.
I don't-
Okay, so we find the hidden door, and it's a hidden corridor as well. So there's a long, dark path. Selena is not too stupid. She's like, let me make some weapons. So she gets like a soap bar and some pins, and she's like, this should be good. This should be good for anything that I'm going
Better
against.
than nothing.
Right, girl. So she walks down it, and it's dark, completely dark. It's also very obvious that nobody has been down here in years. There's like dust. There's no footprints in there. So she's walking, investigating, and she gets to like a fork in the road. Well, it's like a tri-fork in the road. So there's 3 paths that she can go down. One path is giving very ominous, spooky vibes. And she's like, any other night but Sam Hewen would I go down that night or down that tunnel, but not tonight. So she goes down the middle one. She goes down and she ends up finding a secret escape route, essentially. So it's like a little sewer, like the one she got flushed down when she was in Donovan's house. It's like basically one of those, like a little sewer thing that goes out into the quarry. So it's essentially a get out of the castle without anybody finding out. So she could have escaped if she wanted to. However, she's a smart girl, and she knows if she were to escape, the king would hunt her down, and they would likely kill her, or they would likely send her back to the slave camp. And she's like, I'm here living in the castle right now, and I have a good chance of winning my freedom back. This is not the time. And I understand that. Like, that's a really tough decision, because I feel like I would want to leave.
I also feel like it says about her too, like she knows that she wants to be free again. She doesn't want to spend her life running. And I think that also goes back to like her with Sam. I think why she was so hesitant to do everything, leave, like that one final act of getting money and then leaving. She was so hesitant about that. I don't think she was ever hesitant about Sam, but I think she's always been hesitant about leaving and being on the run.
About leaving.
Yeah.
Because she's like, somebody is always going to be looking for me, like for some reason.
Also, is it Sam Hewen or is it Sam Hain? Also, I think that...
I think it's Sam Hewen. I have my Kindle behind you if you want to.
Spell it for me.
Samhuin.
Oh, it's Sawin. That's how you pronounce it.
Sawin? Sawin? Where's the wa?
That's how you spell it. In both spellings, it is pronounced like Soun, with the so pronounced like a female pig and un pronounced as un, or Soun, Soun, because that's an actual holiday. It's like equivalent to like Halloween. So we said Sam Hewen. Apparently it's Soen.
Soen. So we will be calling it the correct name from now on out. But you guys already know we're idiots.
Barely passed. Well, we did. I guess we are nurses. So like we did graduate from nurses. Our reading comprehension may have been, or maybe not even reading comprehension. I would say hooked on phonics.
It's the pronunciation. I just can't pronunciate. I can read and I can understand, but I cannot pronounce things. That's the only issue.
You're a special little girl. You're special to
Yeah,
me.
special girl. So after she finds that secret tunnel, she's like, making that a note. I'm going to remember this place for sure if I ever need that. She makes her way back up. She's like, let's go check out tunnel number 3. And she goes down, and it's a little bit more corridors that she could go down, but she goes down this one path, and it ends up being like a little peeking hole. And so she's peeking through, and wouldn't you know it, she has eyes on the festival that's happening right now, like the feast that's going on. And she looks, all the other competitors are out there. Kale is out there. The other court people are out there. Everybody but her. And she's like, dude, I know I'm an assassin, but there's an assassin. There's a thief. There's a murderer. And I can't be there? What the hell?
I'm just a pretty girl. I deserve to be at the party.
I'm just a
pretty girl.
Yeah. It was, honestly, I would be kind of upset. And I would take that very personally. Heartbroken. And so she's like, well, this is just not great. And I'm sure she would fester on it more, but she did see Kale get up, and she's like, oh, he's coming. He's coming to give me the food. I got to get back. So she runs back up to her room, closes the door, and gets in bed and pretends like she's sleeping. And that's when 2 people try to show up at Selena's house.
Tell me, who is it? Tell me who. I'd like
You want to know? Okay, we obviously know that Kale is going to be there to give her the food, right? But then Dorian somehow stumbles up to her. He's like drunk. He's like, I don't know, maybe she'll be like willing to like hang out with me right now. Like, kind of seems like he's got intentions, like we'll push the boundaries and see what happens. And he's like knocking on her door. He walks in, and then that's when Kale is coming out from the other corner of her, because it's a suite that she lives in. And so Kale's inside her suite, and he comes around the corner. He grabs Dorian by his collar. He's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are you putting yourself in this situation? You're stupid. You're dumb.
If you ask me, it sounded a little jealous to me. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. No, I got jealousy hints too, because it was definitely saying like he didn't know why he acted that way, and he might have to like apologize for his behavior. But at the same time, Dorian was inebriated coming up to this notorious assassin's room in the middle of the night. So yes, that's sus on him and puts him in a really bad position. But then Dorian's also like, why are you here? Ooh. But Kale doesn't tell him why. He's just like, you need to just get out of here, first of all. He shoots Dorian away. And then he goes up to Selena. First of all, I don't know how she hasn't woken up during this point, because I feel like she has her room rigged so like if anybody were to open her doors, she can hear them opening, and she would be like wide awake, prepared. So I feel like she's
she definitely is, like, because she this is right when she runs back upstairs from like the Sam Hewen.
Yeah, that's true.
Sam Hewen is Soen.
Oh gosh, we did it again. Idiots.
Anyway.
Idiot.
So no, I think she gets back up to her room, and she's like, I'm just resting. I'm just instant girl resting. I didn't find a secret passage in my room. I'm fine.
But yeah, so Kale ends up coming up to her, and he's like, hey, I didn't get you food, but I got you this little gift. And he gives her, it was like a little souvenir, I guess, that they're handing out at this dinner. And it's like a souvenir that they give for the rich royal people. It's like this, I don't remember exactly what kind of gem it is, but it's a beautiful little ring. And he gives it to Selena, and she puts it on her hand, and she's like, I will never take this off. Essentially is what she's feeling. She's like, that is so sweet and kind. Thank you so much. And he's like, yeah, sleep well. And then leaves.
I can just imagine Selena as he leaves, basically just being like, pretty jewels on my finger. I don't know.
You know she loves sparkly things.
She's a girly girl.
She's a girly girl.
I love the way
I love
this
anything that sparkles.
Actually, do love this.
She's like, that was a great choice.
Meanwhile, she's like breathing, sighing heavy that nobody caught her in a secret corridor that leads out of the castle.
It's a tough life. She's got a lot on her plate, and she's doing the best that she can. That night, she is sleeping. She's going back to sleep, but it's Sam Hewen.
Soen?
What is it?
Soen.
And she gets like this weird spooky dream. And she's back in the tunnel during this dream. She's being guided or like drawn down the tunnel that she purposely avoided because she was like, that was a spooky tunnel. But now she's being drawn there. And there's more of a familiar scent to it. It's not like a scary, dark scent. It's more of like rose, home, like very comforting. She's like, this is still scary, but I'm going to go down here and I'm going to see what's going on. And she gets in there and she finds the tunnel of Elena and Gavin, which are the very first queen and king of Aderlin, right? And so the tea is Elena's actually half fae, and she came from Terrasen. She's the princess of Terrasen. She got set up with Gavin because they went to war against these dark creatures that we'll get over later on, but essentially she was married to Gavin to unite this land. So she's in their tomb, she's looking at it, and she's like, this is so spooky. Like, I can't believe I'm here right now seeing all of this. And Elena becomes real. She comes like an actual person in front of Selena. And she's like, hey, there's evil going on out here, and we need you to kill it, and you have to become the champion, or else everybody's going to die. Just casually, like, she's like, hey, you got to do this.
And it says in the book, she's like very much like she's a physical presentation of a person, but she has like this blue light, like almost hologram / ghosty tint. So Selena's in her mind, she's like, I'm fucked. I'm going crazy. There's something wrong with me. Like, I'm hallucinating. But she's like, what? Why is she here? Also, why is she telling me this? She's like, I know. I'm already going to win for myself. Like, you don't have to tell me to win. But also, why are you here?
Yeah, seriously.
Why are you here?
Yeah, and so she's like, first of all, I don't know who you are. Second of all, why are you trying to scare me right now? I literally didn't even want to be down this tunnel. Now you're telling me that I have to do this or everybody's going to die? Excellent. Great news. And then Elena's like, also, here's my necklace. I want you to have this. It's going to protect you. Do not lose it. And she's like, and then go. You got to go right now. She's rushing Selena out. Selena's like, what is going on right now? And then as she's running back up the tunnel in this dream, she hears like terrifying roars and screams, and Elena's, I guess, fighting back is what she's hearing. And she's just like, I gotta get out of here. She closes the tomb and she gets back in bed. And when she wakes up, she's like, great, it was just a dream. Don't have to worry about that. No big deal. And she looks down and she's like, oh, it wasn't a dream, because her necklace is still around her neck. She's still got that necklace
around her neck. Can you imagine thinking you're having some kind of hallucination, like crazy dream, and then you wake up with a physical necklace that you've never seen in your life? It's very unique. It's not anything like, it's not something you could just accidentally have put on. Like, it's also a very identifiable necklace, as we'll find out, but it's a very specific.
And that's going to be like the end of the main story plot of this week. But there are definitely a lot of things that we did not mention. Like I said, there's a lot of repetition and a lot of small things happening during this section. So we're going to talk about a little bit of those smaller parts right now. And what I want to talk about is Lady Kaltain. Lady Kaltain is, obviously we don't like her. Obviously she is an annoying little prick kind of girl. But I have to give her credit. She's ambitious. And like everything she does is for a reason. For herself, obviously. She's trying to like self-promote. She came here to Aderlin to try to the inner court. And her mission, as we all know, is to try to gain access to Dorian. Like, that's who she really is wanting. When Dorian was talking to his mom about the marriages that she's wanting him to look for, she gave him like a list of eligible ladies and whatnot. Then later on, Duke Parrington came up and also talked to the queen. And as he was leaving, Lady Kaltain was like, oh, I got to snatch up in here and I need to figure out what's going on. So she's like, anything exciting going on? How's the queen? Like, what's happening? And Duke Parrington spills the tea. He's like, well, yeah, she wants the prince to marry somebody of honor, like a lady, like a good relationship, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, interesting. And so she's trying to figure out who's all on this list that the queen gave her. Obviously, she's not on the list because she's betrothed to Duke Parrington. But she's like, who's on the list? Who do I have to get out? So she drops the hint. She's like, oh, what about Lady Lillian? I heard that they're really getting along well, and I hear she's falling for him. And Duke Parrington's like, Lillian, because he knows who Lillian is. He knows that's actually Selena Sargothian. And she's like an assassin trying to become the champion. And so he's like, no, that can't be. So In Caltain's mind, she's like, this is great. I have an ally. Because honestly, at this point, she just wants to get rid of Lillian. She wants to get rid of Selena and make sure she's out of Dorian's reach. Because she's like, I can probably handle anybody else, but she's different. I got to make sure I got my eye on her, and I got to make sure she's out. And it sounds like Duke Harrington doesn't like her either. So we might be able to make this
Lady
happen.
Caltain is playing she's playing a very touch and go game, I'll say. Like, she's betrothed slightly to Duke Harrington. She's courting Duke Harrington with the intention of, probable marriage. But she's also really vying for Dorian. And so in her head, she's really playing this game of like, I'm going to give just enough to Duke Harrington to keep me in the castle, to keep me around the court. But I also am trying to get to Dorian. So she's playing a very touch and go game where if she makes the wrong move for whatever it may be, like she could either be like Duke Harrington could kick her out or Dorian could kick her out. I don't think we give Lady Caltain enough credit for being very intuitive. Like, she can see that there's something going on with Lillian Gordina, aka Selena. Like, she can see that like she's captured the Crown Prince's attention. She's captured Kale's attention. She has integrated herself into this court, and also she makes herself seem above it. Like, she doesn't have any, ties to anybody. She's not trying for anything. And I think Lady Caltain can see that. She can see that she's got everybody's attention and she needs to get her out of the way.
She's very calculated. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to play the game that is the politics that's going on, essentially. She's quite literally just playing the game of politics, I think.
It is. And I feel like she obviously has been raised for that. Like, her whole goal in life is to find a husband, find notoriety, be yourself in your highest form, whatever that may be, through marriage. And so she's playing the game.
But she's a bitch.
She's a bitch. I'll give it.
Is that rude?
No, it's honest.
Okay. I was like, yeah, I guess, but she's also
every time
a bitch,
I saw her
and I don't
was
like
reading
her.
The first book, I was like, can you shut your stupid mouth? Just shut up.
Even Dorian, even Kale, and now obviously Selena. Every time she talks, everybody's just like,
she's
eye
that
roll,
girl. She's
heavy eye roll
girl.
about.
She's a pick-me girl.
She is. But she's born to be a pick-me girl. Like, that's literally her job. She's supposed to be a pick-me girl, but don't like it.
I feel like Caltain and Lysandra in, like Assassin's Blade and this book,
they'd be best friends. Or
they would either be best friends or mortal enemies. Actually, I think they'd be mortal enemies because they're both kind of alphas. They have their subservients on the side that are like, oh, Lady Caltain, Lady Lysandra, they have their people that respect them, but they are the alphas of their little circle.
Then there's another part that I wanted to talk about. I know that I had dropped hints that Dorian has been trying to make moves with Selena and trying to get a little closer with her. There was a time where he snuck up to her room late at night, and Selena is playing the piano. She's thinking of Sam, so it's kind of like a somber, emotional song, and she's enveloped. You guys know how she loves her music. She's enveloped in it. She's getting carried away in it. And Dorian has been sitting at her door listening to her for a while. He's like, I'm surprised she hasn't heard me. So he goes up to sit beside her. And that's when she notices him and they see each other. And they have a little banter going on. And this is where they're starting to feel like they're pushing the boundaries of like what's allowed. Like, Selena's saying things to him where he's like, do you know who I am? I'm the prince. And she's like, do you want to go tell Kale that you're here by yourself? She's like, I've got the upper hand here, so I can pretty much do whatever I want. Dorian is like, no, valid. That's so true. And he's like playing along with her. And Dorian thinks that they're having like a fun banter. And he pushes a little bit harder than I think he realizes about the song and about her emotions, because everybody thinks she's just this soulless, heartless assassin. And he's like, obviously you do have a soul if you're playing music like that. She's like, yeah, of course I have a soul. Like, everybody's got a soul. Everybody's got something about them. And he's like, I wonder, was that song about an old lover? And she's like, get out.
Immediately.
You need to leave.
You are rude, and I don't like you.
You're going to make me cry.
I'm gonna cry right now.
That would be me.
Get out.
But yeah, she makes him leave, and he's like, sorry, I didn't really mean to do that. And she's like, his name was Sam. And he's like, ooh. Sorry, when did Sam die? And she's like, 13 months ago, which was the time when she got sent away to Endovier.
That is so heartbreaking and sad. I feel like it just takes you right back into like the end of Assassin's Blade, like all of those feelings and emotions. And Like, you know how horrible that was.
She's gone through so much right now. Like, and she's only, 18 years old, 19? I don't know how old she is, but she's pretty young. And she's gone through so much, like the death of her family, the death of her kingdom, the death of her first love, being brainwashed to killing people and being an assassin and hating her heritage.
And then being enslaved and then being taken out of enslavement to participate in a killing fest, to become a champion, to become a slave for the man that ruined your entire life for the next 4 years until you eventually earn your freedom. Like, that is such a lose-lose situation all around.
Yeah. Selena is built different, that's
Couldn't
for
be
sure.
me.
Like, she's gone through it. Literally, I complain about so many things. And it's compared to this person, obviously we know it's fictional, but it seems very real.
Seems real.
And I could never. That's all I know. And then the other thing is, obviously we know that there is tension brewing with Dorian and Selena, but we're hearing a lot of things that Kayla is doing. It doesn't sound necessarily flirty, but it sounds more intentional. It feels more personal. It feels more intimate in a way. Like, it's not like he's flirting the way that Dorian is flirting. You know what I mean? Like, Dorian's very forward about his feelings, about being attracted and like trying to flirt, make her fluster. Whereas Kayla's more of just being there for her. He's been showing up for her. He's been supporting her. He's been in her corner telling her, like, you're going to do this. You're going to make it through it. Like, and he's showing up and he's hanging out with her in between. I'm growing feelings for Kale during this time more than I am for Dorian. Like, obviously I know Selena's very into Dorian physically and not so much with Kale, it seems. But Kale seems like he would be a great partner for Selena. And I know that's a bit of a stretch right now because she just got here. She's still an assassin. She's not even like a champion. They don't know each other like that. But with her feelings that are growing with Dorian, I feel like, how is she not seeing Kale and his equal merits that he's bringing? I don't know. I don't know. At this point, who would you be rooting for?
I feel like in my head I'm rooting for Dorian right now, only because I think I'm the type of person that's like a sucker for like the riz, the charming personality, the make you
Dorian
feel
does
good,
have
the
riz.
one that's like very outwardly expressively attractive. But I feel like Kale is building this friendship with Selena, this like companionship to where she knows she's counting on him to some degree. Like, he's building routine with her. Whereas I feel like Dorian is building this spontaneity of like excitement. Whereas Kale's building this routine of consistency and like camaraderie, you know? And I feel like it would be hard to pick right now. It would be hard to choose who I think would be better from her from this lens. But I feel like in this moment right now, my own personal feelings would probably be for Dorian because it's fun and exciting. Whereas maybe, you know, like, the more mature side of me would say choose the person that's more your best friend, you know, like the person you can count on for anything. So, but I think it's so early in the story. We're going to get to see.
Yeah, we don't know what direction it's going to go. And I know I just know that
it's going to go all the way.
I still don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty far into the series. Well, not like very far. I haven't started the tandem read, but I am like third book in. So I know a lot, but as we're telling the stories, I'm going to be telling you like as I felt as I was reading these things. And in this moment, I was like, why is she so into Dorian? He's obviously a fuckboy. He obviously is used to getting his way, and he's just here for the show of it. And Kale is the only one who's like been there for her. And for me, that says a lot. I need the support, and I need somebody who's honest with me and who will be there through my dirty days and my clean days and my mean days and my nice days.
That's so hard though, because when I'm,
but that's just me.
I agree with you reading as like an outsider, but I feel like if I was the one in this situation being 19 and having the friendship brewing or the steamy potential romance / very spontaneous attention from an attractive, charismatic boy, that would be hard for me to switch lanes on. To
ignore. That's true. If I was 19 and if I had somebody like as attractive as Dorian sounds and as powerful as Dorian is coming up to me telling me that he wants to hang out, I'm like,
spontaneous and romantic and like he's got a way with words. I'll give it to him.
Right. Okay. And then lastly, I want to talk about Nehemiah, because we know how hard Selena has been trying to have any type of friendship. Like, she barely was able to become Sam's friend, and then they became lovers. Then he died. She became Ansel's friend. She stabbed her in the back. She doesn't have any other friends besides that, essentially, and everybody she's ever grown up with has basically shown that she can't trust them. And now she meets Nehemiah, and I feel like I'm both scared for Selena to have this new friendship, because what's going to happen once she becomes a champion? Like, can she have a friendship with Nehemiah when she's got this hidden secret going on? And is Nehemiah really the person who she says she is? That's what I'm scared about, because she obviously knows about the word mark. She's obviously here for different reasons, because Selena has heard Nehemiah helping the rebels. So it's like, why is she actually here? There's no way she's here to actually learn about the culture to bring back home. There's got to be a different reason. So I'm interested to see how this friendship plays out. I am hopeful, because they seem like they just had immediate connection, and I want them to be friends. But
Scared.
with her history, it's just like, I just feel like something traumatic or scary or sad is going to happen.
Poor Selena. I feel like every time you think she's in a good place, something bad happens.
Okay, Peekers, that was this week's Peek.
Next week, we will be covering Throne of Glass, chapters 25 through 40.
Thank you so much for listening and sticking it through it with us on this episode. This one was probably a little bit choppy and rough. So if you did stick through it, you're a real one, a G.
We're working on our sound. We're working on our editorial skills, okay? So just take the content at face value. Take what we're giving you, please, because we're gonna hopefully get better. Please. Honestly,
we will get better. We're born to be famous. It's going to happen. Just give us a second, please.
Rate it honestly. Rate it what you think. Throw us
Honestly,
a comment
seriously.
on our social media. Be like, this week sucked. And that's fine. We'll take it, whatever you got to do. But
it's good to know.
if it sucked, honestly, I'd rather know. But then give us a second, because we're gonna get it right.
But then come back for more, please.
That's fine. Please, please.
All right, guys. Bye.